All right, we're back. It is, I don't understand this, COMP1073, and we are in the winter 2017 semester, and we are week 4, part 1 of our broadcast here. I'm just going to check my video manager here and see what's going on, because that's really weird. And if I have to, I'll start over. Yeah, okay, so it's doing this, but let me see what it looks like on my main dashboard. So the way to find out what's happening with this stuff is if we go to live streaming, there should be really only one event. Hopefully there's only one. If there's 2, that's a bad thing. 1, yay, and it's live. Fantastic. So we are client-side scripting, and I wanted to talk to you about an addendum to assignment 1, which I'm going to bring to now, which is due in a couple weeks for assignment 2. So we know how to output by now, if you've done assignment 1, to the page, right? And again, this is baby steps. I know people are like, Tom, give us more. I got some people who said to me, like, it's not enough. It's too easy. Fantastic. If it's easy, great. Remember, this first half is all introductory, easy stuff. And the second half, we get more interesting for this course because I have to build you up a little bit. I can't slam you with difficult things from the very beginning. So now you're going to do output. You did input, and now you're going to do output. What I mean by output is, or input back into you, is you're going to make a contact form for your portfolio site. But the contact form that you've already made, you're going to extend. It's worth 15% again. So it's like, you might say it's a lot of marks for like a little assignment, and it's not a big assignment at all. However, the devil is in the details here. And what I'm asking you to do is update your contact page so that what happens is it actually works. And what I mean by that is you get input, whatever, when you type some, the person types their name, their phone number, their email address, and all that kind of stuff, it works, and it gets sent over to the, to the JavaScript file. And then I want to output everything to the console. I want you to do that. So that's what this whole thing is about. Now, it's all one big lump, the contact page update. One thing I'm going to look for to make this a little bit more challenging for you guys is how you limit the user when it comes to entering information. Okay, so I want to do a little bit of validation, data entry validation. And we're going to talk about some of the things that can help us with that today. All right, so when someone enters their information, they can enter whatever they want. Example, if they want to enter things like, instead of a phone number, they put some characters in there, right? You should stop them from doing that. You should prevent them from entering characters in. How do we do that? Think about those kind of things. So we're talking about it today and next week. So today we're going to be talking about some simple statements and structures. Next week, we're going to talk more input validation and those kind of things. I also will talk about how to use one page, a single page, like we talked about just now, to kind of you work with all your pages. And I'll show you a little structure like that. I'll base it off of last week's lesson number 3. We'll make it lesson number 4, and I'll use one page to control all HTML pages on your screen. So we'll talk about that. So again, site structure is a big part of this. This is where 28 points that I'm looking at. 8 points of those 28 is going to be site structure. So how everything is organized, content, scripts, and so on. A lot of this is already done for you, but some people, for whatever reason, call their things other things. Like, they don't call it scripts. They call it JS. It's not what I asked. So you'll lose 2 marks for that. Follow my instructions. There's a method to my madness. The reason why I'm asking you to do that. Same thing with content and everything else. Internal documentation was a big hit for some of you. You didn't include it. It means that there's no author's name or website name or even your student number or anything in any of your JavaScript or CSS files. I don't care so much about the HTML part because sometimes it messes us up. If you put your comments in the top of your HTML, if you don't do it properly, you can make it so that your HTML document doesn't work. So be careful about that. But for sure, for your JavaScript and CSS, that's where I'm looking for a common header, right? This one, again, I'm asking you to make it live with the cloud hosting provider. So last time I asked you to make it live. This time I'm asking you to make it live. We talked about Azure as one possible solution. There are other solutions, DreamHost or whatever. You can choose any of your the opportunities. Some people did not make it live. So I'm saying these are things that were missed out of your assignment number 1. Please fix them by assignment number 2. Next week, I'm going to check to see if you've started your code, but I'm not going to give you a lab about that. There's going to be other labs next week, not relating to did you start assignment 2. I did that for the first one. This next week, I'll do something else, just letting you know. So the lab will be based on a different activity. So make sure you submit your project files with a zip archive, not a RAR archive. Some people, for whatever reason, don't follow this instruction and give me a RAR file. I've accepted it this time. I'm not going to accept it next time. Please do not give me a RAR archive, okay? a link to your GitHub repository. I need that, and a link to your live mini portfolio site with your extension that gives you your cloud hosting, your this stuff that actually takes valid data and inputs it into your form. One thing that I'm actually looking for on this one is that you create a new GitHub repository. So please do not extend assignment number 1 and make assignment number 2. Copy assignment number 1, make a new assignment, call it assignment number 2 with a brand new Git repositories. Please do not use the same one. If you give me the same one as assignment 1, it looks identical, and if somehow assignment 1 is wiped out, I will not accept it. Just letting you know, right? So please don't do that. New repositories. This is not a continuation of your other repository. It's not, you're not continuing assignment 1. This is assignment 2, which means you start a brand new project. You could base it off of assignment 1. Obviously, you're going to make an extension of your mini portfolio site. You can copy all the files, or take away that .git folder, copy and paste and remove the .git folder, and you just do it, reinitialize your Git by doing git init and so on. But I do not want you to use the same repository. So please don't do that. Okay. Yes.
I'm sorry, just to clarify that. So are we able to use the same portfolio though?
Yes.
Add the functionality onto it?
Yes, but just not the same Git repository. Yes.
So do you still want to like file and project?
All the same stuff. It's exactly the same. I just want you to extend it. So you're going to work on your contact page. The contact page is where all the work is going to be for this one, for next. And I'll talk about more of what so I'm looking for a fully working. So when I enter something in the contact page, it's going to stop me from entering bad data, and it's going to allow me to take input from the user and output it to the console. That's all I want for now. Okay. I know it sounds like a lot, 15%, but believe me, remember I told you about marking and how things become harder and harder. These are the easy assignments. So get the marks as much as you can. Do well now, right? And then remember, whatever I'm going to give you on your exam is going to be based on these 2 assignments. So if you can do these 2 assignments really well, your midterm exam will be fantastic, right? If you don't do these 2 assignments on your own, then your midterm exam will suck, right? It'll be terrible, right? So please don't get other people to do these. These are easy assignments to learn how to do on your own. And then you'll be able to get input and output, or output to the page and get input from the user. Those 2 things I want you to do. Any other questions around assignment 2? Again, normally I would give this in week 5, and I only give you a week to do this. I'm giving you 2 weeks because I know there's other things going on. You have other courses, right? And so that's why it's going to be an easy assignment. I'm also going to try as much as I can to give you time in class to start, right? But it's very hard because I got a lot of stuff to cover. Okay, that's assignment 2. Again, just from a due date perspective, it's due the Tuesday, so not the Wednesday. Today we get together on Wednesdays, right? But Tuesday, February the 14th. So happy Valentine's Day for you, right? It's due at midnight though, so you can still go out for dinner with your loved one if you have such a person, and come home, still finish off your assignment and hand it in. Although I don't recommend you hand it in on the 14th. Try and get it in on the 13th or another day. Remember that it's better to submit and submit often. Do not wait till the last minute, because once the clock strikes 12, you're a pumpkin and you lose 20% for every day, which makes no sense for these little easy assignments. That would be like giving away free marks. These are assignments, these 2, assignment 1, assignment 2, really not difficult, right? So please, if you think they're difficult, then you really got to assess your skills and maybe do a little bit more of self-study and take a look at the book, follow the book that's in the course outline, because everything should be in there that you need. Okay, so that part is done. I'm going to go back to variables, functions, and loops. We're going to talk more about this stuff because we need functions and loops. We kind of covered them last week a little bit. This is what I'm covering. This is up on Blackboard right now, right? We did cover variables. We did cover kind of like a little bit of functions. I'm going to go into more about functions and loops and how to do them today. I'm going to refer to this PowerPoint only as a reference. I'm not going to read the PowerPoint slides exactly. It's there for you. But what I will do is start off with last week's assignment, or last week's project. So if we go back to, and someone asked me to clean up my desktop, so I did. I said, Tom, your desktop is so messy. Can you clean it up for us? Sure, here it is. So COMP1073, I'm going to take off, here's lesson 3, and this is what you can do for your assignment 1. Okay, so let's suppose this was assignment 1 as opposed to lesson 3 for me. I'm going to duplicate my folder. Yes, is that a question? No. Cloning repository will actually create the exact same repository. And on top of that, it'll give you the same commits. I don't want you to do that. All right, so make a brand new repository. That's the easy way to do it. All right. But good question. Thank you for that. So now we look at it, COMP1073, and I have a copy. If you copy and paste on a Windows machine, it's the same. I'm going to just rename this from lesson 3 to lesson 4, like we've done, and you would name it from assignment 1 to assignment 2. Okay, that's the same thing that you would do. So I'm not asking you to change your whole structure. If you have a good structure, leave it like that. I have to also mention one more thing about assignment 2. Sorry, I forgot. One more thing. If you're not satisfied with assignment 2, with assignment 1, the way your more portfolio site looked, and you didn't have enough time, you want to make it better, I think there's a great opportunity for you to do it on assignment 2, because this is going to be, I want you at the end of this course to have a really decent portfolio, right? That you can go and say, look, I've done this portfolio. I was using JavaScript. I learned how to do JavaScript on this one. By the way, it tells you a little about who I am. I'm a web programmer. I'm a designer. You know, I like to do whatever I'm going to do. So there's an opportunity for you to do a revamp or a revision 2 on your portfolio site. So if it's slightly different than assignment number 1, if you add stuff to it to make it your own, and you tell me, here's, Tom, I added these extra things that you didn't ask me for, I will offer up things like bonus marks and you know, look at your portfolio. I'm going to look at your assignment 2 like I've never seen your portfolio before, okay? Like as if it's a brand new assignment that I've never seen. That's why I want you to create your own repo for this one. Okay, so I've got I'm using my terminal again, and here I am with my lesson 4. I'm going to CD, so I'm going to change directory into my my folder. I'm doing it this way this time, and I'm going to do a list. You know, on the Mac, if you're a Windows user, what you would do here is you would use File Explorer to kind of look at your project. You have to kind of view files and folders, so you can view all your files and folders. And then when you go into your files and folders, you'll see the hidden files and folders where it says .git. Remove the .git folder, and this is what I'm going to do here. Now, there was actually a really interesting article today about someone who, one of the employees of GitLab, who used rm space dash rf, which is remove, and with force star, and he did that at work, and he removed all kinds of information by accident. So please, whatever you do, whenever you see the commands I'm doing, rm minus rf, do it only on the Git file. Don't do star. If you do star, you will wipe out your machine, right? And sometimes, especially if you're of a Linux machine, it's catastrophic. Windows, you're a little bit more protected. Mac, you'll be dead if you do it on a Mac. So what I mean is rm minus rf, that right there is a very serious command. It removes recursively, which means it goes through every folder that's underneath it and forces the removal, right? So if I put star there, that means it's a wildcard for everything. So rm minus rf star removes everything from that folder down. And if you do it, everything that's in this folder, if you do it at the top level, like somewhere at the top level of your let's say your C drive or whatever, it'll wipe you out. Like it'll you won't have a computer anymore, right? You'd have to reformat or reinstall your Windows and everything else, and you'll lose all your work. So please never do that. But here, all I'm gonna do is I'm getting rid of .git, okay? And now that I've done that, I can initialize a Git repository by doing the same things: git init, right? Git add dot, git commit -m, and then initial commit. Okay, there we go. So that's all this. Same thing that we've done before. I'm going to close this one down for a second. Those are all the same commands that we did over the last 4 weeks. Nothing new. Okay, so you should know all those Git commands by now. When we use Git, every class that you do programming, whether the professor asks you or not, you should be creating a Git repository for yourself, right? It's a good way of at least backing yourself up and doing revision control, or it's version control is very important, because worst case scenario, you can always go back if you have a problem or something didn't work. All right, so I'm using Visual Studio Code here, and I'm just going to close this other one, bring up a new empty Visual Studio Code file. There we go. And I'm drag and dropping my lesson 4 in there. Okay, fantastic. I got my lesson 4. And notice I've got the right structure: assets, content, and scripts, which is what I asked for. I've got a .bower RC for when I download and install stuff. I've got my bower.json, right? I'm changing this from lesson 2, it should say lesson 3. I need to do that, right? So we are changing bower.json because that's going to be a different file, demo app for lesson 3. I also have one file, index.html, and it says lesson 3. We're going to say lesson 4. Did I make a mistake? I left it that way last time. All right, so that's fine. There we go. All right, one thing you can do with the bower.json file is you can reinitialize bower.json, and I do that sometimes when I want to add my Git repository. So I'm going to go to my command line or terminal, and I'm just right-clicking down here in Visual Studio to get this. That's right inside the folder that I want, and I'm going to issue the following command. I'm going to say bower init. I'm doing it again. I'm almost reinitializing my Bower repository. What it's going to do is it's going to go through my little wizard that I use for Bower, and it's just going to ask me to fix stuff. So here's my keyword is JavaScript, author is me, and what it's also going to do is, if it can, it'll add any dependencies or home pages or whatever. So that's how you can reinitialize. I'm good to go with this. This is all looks good to me. Okay, so I've modified my Bower.json file, but everything else remains the same. In my index.html, I have several things. I have a middle section, which gives me a little bit of this is my navigation. So navigation starts here pretty much. I'll leave a little bit of a space. Here's my navigation. And it goes all the way to here. This is where my navigation ends. Here's my main content. And from a HTML commenting perspective, you want to do at least this, kind of say, well, this is my main content. This is where my main content starts, right? Here's my footer section. You want to do all those kind of things. Here's my JavaScript section. At the very minimum, you should do these things with HTML. Okay. And if you notice, I'm using one file, app.js, that I'm kind of tapping into for this file. But what if, and this is the question, I have multiple files, and I want to have my navigation, I want it to work, right? So right now, I only have one file that I've been doing. And my navigation is right here. And notice that it goes to projects.html and contact.html, but I don't have those two files. I only have index.html. First of all, let me put this up on GitHub so you have what I have. And if you want to start from my project, so you don't start from scratch or whatever, or if I went too fast, we'll do that now. So one is, I'm going to go to my integrated Git right here in Visual Studio, and notice that I can skip across the changes and click plus. Plus, when I go on the changes line here, is like doing git add dot. It's almost the exact same thing. And I'm doing that all inside Visual Studio here. Next, I want to add a commit. And I updated my bower.json and index.html for my project to match my project. That's what I've done. It's a little long in terms of the commit, but it's okay. I'm going to click this check mark, right? Now what I want to do is I want to connect locally, right? So I'm going to open up my terminal here. So I'm going to go back to terminal. I'm going to open up my terminal. And what I want to do is I want to connect my remote, right? Now, in order for me to do that, I have to have a remote. So I'm going to go up on GitHub. And under GitHub, I'm going to go to Georgian. And I'm going to create a new repository. So here's my new repository on Georgian. And I'm going to call this COMP1073, Winter 2017. Oh. Then lesson 4. Okay. Enter. And now that I have it, I also have the 2 links that I need in the bottom. These 2 lines, I need them to connect my GitHub repository. So I'm going to go back down to here and copy paste. Right now, you have my lesson 4 GitHub repository online. And for those people who don't know where that is, I'm going to copy this and put it up on Slack. Right. So if you look at Slack, right on here, I'm going to say, thank you. Oh, by the way, comments like this, sometimes we want to have, not that I want to point anyone else out, but just do me a favor, try and send me direct messages, because otherwise you'll be on the Slack channel. Everyone will see your remarks, right? Just saying. It's up to you guys. I'm okay with it. If you're okay with it. Yeah, they might. And like I said, I would, if you want to, you can send me direct messages. It's okay. If you're okay with this too, I'm fine with it. Okay. So here is where I'm going to put this in. I'm going to say, so this is the GitHub link for week 4. Yes, there it is. So you can go there. Yes.
One question. First of all, I have a local story. I did that. That we just paste it. If I do that again with your repository, it is okay.
With my repo, like, do you want to share my repository again, or what do you mean?
I make a repository.
Yeah.
I did it. I have that. Maybe it's common. No, it's common.
Yeah.
I did it. My repository. Now I want to do that with your repository on my folder.
I don't think so. We'll talk about it after in the break. We'll talk. I'll try and get you to understand. Maybe I'm not understanding what you mean. But typically, you can't affect my repository. I can't affect your repository. I can't add comments or anything like that to, like, unless you collaborate with me, right? If that's what you mean, right? Yeah, we'll talk after. Maybe I'm misunderstanding. Yeah. So if I go to the repository now, someone asks, how do I collaborate? Here's the answer. So let's suppose, you and I collab. Daniel, I want to collaborate with you. Okay, I want you to be my partner in this project, right? How do I do that? Notice there's one contributor here, right? If I click on contributors, it says here's all the contributors. This is me right now, right? Now, if I want to add someone else to my contributor as a contributor, I need to collaborate with them, and I need to do that through settings. So if I go to settings, and if I go to collaborators and teams on the left, I'm going to have to log in. And this is the login for GitHub. Okay. Once I've logged in, I can search for somebody by adding a collaborator. If they're on GitHub somewhere, their ID will pop up here. So Daniel, what's your GitHub ID? One like this? Yeah? GitHub? Is that it? That's how it is. That's how easy it is. If I can look anyone up by their Git thing, and if I add you as a collaborator, so now you're your collaborator, you're going to get an invite. Notice that I've given you write access, right? Read access is only you can read from it. That sometimes is good when I have a private repository, right? So for me, you don't have to give me write access. All you have to do is give me read access. As long as I have read access so I can look at your repository, I'm good enough. You don't have to give me write access. Admin access means you can actually destroy your repository too. You don't want that, right? So that I'm giving you write access. You have access. So go ahead. What I want you to do, and this is just for today's exercise for you, I want you to go to the README area, see where it says add a README, and click add a README and add a README file, please. So where it says add a README file on the main so just click on code over here, right? Click on code. And then when you go to code, go click add a README file on the bottom right. And when you do that, add a little README message that says, actually you can even leave the default message. Just do that and then press on the bottom, press commit. There'll be an area that says commit on the bottom. So where is that? What I'm asking you to do is go to click and add a README file, and on the bottom, just click commit new file. Yeah, you do. So you have to look. You're probably looking at the wrong place. So if you go code, right, and on the bottom, do you have add a README file? On mine, did you accept my invitation? Huh? You accepted my invitation? And you still don't have it? Okay, that's interesting. Okay, I'll come around and do that. But basically, what you do is once you've done, let me add someone else as a what's your just so we know how to do it. Just a moment. Let me go to collaborators and teams. And so what is it?
GIL.
Yeah.
EMBR.
BMBR, like is in B?
EMBR.
EMBR, like that?
No, EMER.
EMER.
Yeah, that's the one. There you go.
Okay, so I'm going to add you as a collaborator. You're going to get a link to write. Did you get the email? It's almost instant. And when you do, I want you to do it if you can. Let's see what the difference is. Now, there's a reason why I'm showing you this stuff, guys, so you guys know how to do this. Huh? You got it now? Okay, don't worry. I'll get you to do something else after, okay? Yes?
First, like I submitted my assignment with GitHub link, and I copied that invitation link. Is that okay?
Copied it? May not work. If it doesn't work for me, I'll tell you. I don't see your GitHub link. Maybe you want to send it to me again.
Like
right?
When you add collaborator, like I did use, and then I copied that link,
Uh-huh.
and then I posted on like in the right section of submission of assignment.
Yeah, okay, but as long as you copy me, I'll get emailed automatically. So don't worry about that. Okay? as long as you copy it. Are you done? All right, so if I look back up here in code, you can see that there is a README test, right? Okay, now here's a question for you. Now you do another one. Go in there and change a README test or add something else to README test. And I want to talk about this for a second, right? So here's the good thing and bad thing about collaboration with other people. If you collaborate with others like this, what happens to my commit? I'm at a certain level of commits. If you look locally, I'm waiting for Gil to finish. Let me show you something here. So if I go here, and if I do git status, right? I'm on branch master. And if I do git log, it's going to show me that I have 2 commits, right? 2 commits. But now, you done?
Yeah.
But now, if I go back here and if I refresh from here, you can see that I have a couple of tests, right? And I have 1 contributor, but if I go to commits, I have a couple of other collaborators, right? So there you go. So now that I have this happening, I have 2 commits, right? An update and a create, right? Here's my create, and here's the update. I have a couple more. I'm 2 commits behind, right? So what I need to do locally then, if I want to catch up with you guys, is git pull. What git pull does is it pulls me down not just the file, readme.md, but also pulls down the commits. So now when I do a git log, I have those commits. Okay? And that's how we work. By the way, I don't know why, but it looks like both of your commits are yours. That's weird. I don't know how that happened. Yeah, I saw that. I didn't see that yours came up at all. Right? That's really bizarre. Maybe you overrode his.
No, I didn't commit.
You didn't commit? Oh, that's why.
Want to do it now? I do it.
Do it now. Do it now. And then I'll have to pull again, right? It's good practice for you guys, and I recommend you try it to see what happens. So work with yourself. Are you done? Done? Okay, let me take a look and see what you've done now. I've got 4 commits, and I don't see your commit. So you probably didn't do it. You probably didn't commit. Did you now? And I still see 4 commits. We'll talk about it after, all right? Anyway, so now that I've done this, please don't do it. If you do it, let me know, because if I do a push later on, it's going to fail, right? That would be really bad. Fails. It's not good. Did you do it yet or not? Okay, so let's move on. So I've got this VS Code sample that we're using right now, and I've got one file, index.html. I want to make copies of it, so I'm going to do that now. I'm going to kind of do copy, and I'm going to paste, and paste again, right? So I'm going to paste again. So I've got 2, right? So index 1 and index 2 and index. So index 1, I'm going to name this one. If you look at the file, projects, so that's going to be index 1. So rename to projects. We're going to make it a little different because it can't be just the same as index. Okay, rename. And I'm also going to rename index 2 to contact. This is index 2 and projects. Now I can actually go somewhere. Let's do projects first. So my title would be projects. I'll change that to projects, right? And I have my navigation. That's still correct, right? Except my active class. Notice my active class right now. It says, as an example, it's on my index, my home page, and I want to change my active class from my home page. I want to change that to my projects page, because that's going to be my active link now is going to be my project link. Same thing goes with my contact. Contact should say contact me. Right? Contact me. Actually, we'll just call it contact. Okay? There's a method for that, a reason for that. So here's my contact page, and then inside my link, my active link will no longer be home. It's going to be my contacts. I'm going to cut this out of here, cut, and put it on the bottom of my contact page here. Okay, so I've done a couple of small things. On my contact page, instead of saying lesson 3, we'll say contact page. Okay? Or maybe I'll say contact me. Hello, contact me. There we go. Now I have first paragraph and second paragraph. Question: should my contact page have first paragraph and second paragraph? Probably not, right? And this, my friends, is going to cause an issue for me. Because if I use the same JavaScript file, it's going to search for something that cannot be found. Can't find first page, first paragraph and second paragraph. And I'm going to put some other kind of stuff in here, a table of some sort, right? That's going to hold my contact form. I'm going to make a form in here, which I'm going to do shortly. So for now, just contact me page. Next, my projects page. Projects page, I have first paragraph and second paragraph. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to call this projects, make it a little different. And like maybe I'll say my projects, make it more interesting. And instead of these first paragraph, second paragraph, and the click me button, which I have in my first page, make it different. I'll have only one paragraph. Actually, I'll make it, you know what? I'll use another set of things in here to create my first project. So here's my project, and inside there, maybe I'll make another row, something totally different. Different structure. Or I have my first heading, which is my projects, and then my first row, or another row. So I'll say div with a class of row, and then with a class of column. Oh, sorry. Column dash medium dash offset. And we'll make it so it's 3 again. Or maybe I'll make it 4. Maybe we'll make it 4, and then column dash medium dash. So if I have 4 and 4, that's 8. What am I left with? 4 in the middle. So 4, 4, 4. I could do that, or I could do 4, 6, 2 on the other side. So I'll make it slightly off. So 4. I'll make it 4, 4. Here we go. 4, 4, 4. Yes, there it is. And inside here, I'm going to put my title of my first project. Right. So I'll say H2 with the title of first project title. Right, which I'll put a title in there like my first project. Make it a little different. And maybe some kind of placeholder image inside here, which we'll put in a second. So I'm looking for an image, right? And I want to use a placeholder image. Now, there is something you can put in. I can't do it here with Emmett, but I can look online for a placeholder. Take a look at this place called placeholder. Hold it. Placehold.it. There we go. And I want to put an image. These placeholder images, this is one place you can do it, right? This is not bad. It can put like these basic placeholder images. You just tell it how big you want it. So if you want an placeholder image like 350 by 150, it'll put it in your page with nothing inside, just like this image right here, right? Or if you want to be more entertaining, you can always go to, this is one. I'll put this on Slack for you for placeholder images. So placeholder image site 1, right? That's one of them. And the other one that I like a lot is something called Lorem Pixel. Lorem Pixel. Those are the two that I use, right? So Lorem Pixel, kind of cool. It's the same thing, except you can specify things like sports or animals or food or whatever. And you can specify whether there's a color image, like some placeholder images, but other things. So this is another one. So Lorem Pixel. So put that on there too for you. So placeholder image site 2. Okay, so a couple of sites, right, that you can go to. I'm going to use the second one, and I'm going to use this one. So I'm going to say, I'm going to do a 400. Notice this is the size, right? So the way it works is, what's the size of your image? So I want to do, let's say, an image that's around, and you can type it in too, maybe 400 pixels, by around 300 pixels. There's this how it is. And I want to look at some kind of a project, right? So business might be the right thing, something like that. Let's make it so it's Technics, I don't know, one of those. And then color, a color image, right? And what it's going to do is going to give me this image. This is the image that's going to come up, right? And that's what it's going to generate for me, right? So this is the place. So this is the generator. So if I copy my image address, right, and if I put it in, right, if I go back to my site here, and if I kind of put it in, if I kind of paste it. You can see what it says, lorempixel.com, output technics, and then this is the site, right? So now what I can do is I can include this as a link to my image URL. So I want to put the image URL like kind of raw in here. And if I want to, I might want to put it around, I want to put some kind of div tag around it. So I want to put an image tag inside of the div tag, and the source is going to be this. So copy this one and put it inside here. Right? So we'll look at this image in a sec, what it looks like. So I got projects page, and I got my first project is some kind of computer and maybe some text underneath it. Maybe I want to put inside the image, underneath the image, I want a paragraph tag, paragraph tag with a lorem text of about, let's say 150. So some kind of words in there about the image. Maybe that's too many. We'll make it so it's 50. Some minor words about the image, something like that you're going to say. So something that I'm kind of putting in, and they're all going to be inside this row. Okay. So that's my projects page. My contact page, I need some kind of, instead of my contact me, I want to put in here a form, right? And I don't want to just put any form. I want to find one that's compatible with Bootstrap. So I'm going to go to getbootstrap.com. And the great thing is they have components, right? And if I look to the right, they have all kinds of components that I can tap into that are ready to go. And they give you components about everything, different kinds of things you can do, right? Alerts and everything else. Where I really want to look at is in CSS, where they have information about forms. And they give you some form examples here, right? And some code, right? Here's the code. So here's my form class, and I have my email, my password, and some other things. I'm going to take this whole form class, copy it, right? And I'm going to go back to Visual Studio Code, and underneath the H1 tag, I'm going to paste it. And see if I can format the page a little bit, format my document. Yay, okay, I don't know if I like it, but who knows. So there's my form, right? And the great thing is it creates a form. Here's the form itself. And with a class of form group, I have two things. I have my email address, right? Which we're going to talk about in a second. And my password. I don't care about this so much. I do like my email address, that's for sure. I want that one, right? Password I don't want. I want like a name, my first name or something like that. First name and last name or full name. So I'm going to copy this out. So cut this out, put it up here where it says password. I don't want password. I want this control. It's still a form control. It's still a type. Instead of password, I want it type text, right? So it's text that I want to enter in. That's the form. That's the type that I want. That's my input type. And then this one, instead of example input password, I'm going to call this full name. Just want to say full name. And this one is going to be called full name. Okay. And my placeholder is going to be full name, enter full name maybe. A placeholder kind of puts something in there, right? By default. And instead of example input email, we're just going to say email, capital E, and this will be email in here. And my place will be enter your email. Okay. Then I have some file stuff that I want in a checkbox. I don't want any of this stuff with a blank label, right? And a submit button. So I want to get rid of all of this from the form group up here like this. So I've got my button left. So password, email address, and maybe some kind of other form. Actually, it's not this one. I want to grab this one, put that over here, and we're going to have your message. Your message. We'll call this for his message. We don't have that yet, but we will put that in here. Enter a message. That's going to be the placeholder text. And instead of text, what kind of message do I want? What can I choose? I want a message box. And notice that I have a bunch of options here, right? What kind of input do I want? I want text again, right? But I want to make it multi-line. What do I change to make it multi-line? Sorry? Text area, right? So it's not input type text. And notice that if I go down here, is it even input type? No, right? So if you look at if I go back to online for Bootstrap, right? So they have this is an inline form, and what I'm looking for is some kind of text area, yeah? So they have different controls. Here's a text area, and this is how you code it, like this. We grab this one, my text area, go back, and my message is here. I want to replace this. I still want to have an ID and the form class, so I want to keep that for a second. Put text area, class is form control, right? I don't need a type. Rows number is 3 is fine, right? I do want to put an ID of message, so copy this out. And I definitely want to put a placeholder in there, right? And talk about that and get rid of this. Here's the other thing. Do I want to make this one required, right? Do I want to make this required? And the answer is I do. I want to make all these required. You can't do any of this. You can't just send me nothing. So I want to make this required, right? I want to make this required. And I want to make this required. Hey, curious, what does required do? Does anyone know? I remember from HTML like 101. What does required do? Yes.
We need to enter like for
It'll stop you from going the form, right? But what required does, and I'll change my submit to send, right? This is my submit button, my button default. This is my form. Not perfect, but it prevents you. If you don't enter these in, it won't allow you to send the form. That's what it does. Okay, let's take a look at my masterpiece now, right? Because I made these 3 forms. Do I have a problem? Do I have an error? Of course I do. And I'm going to talk about the errors. So I'm going to right click here, and I'm going to open in terminal again if I don't have it open. I think I already do. And what I want to do is the following: lite-server, L-I-T-E-server, and so that I can bring up what this thing looks like. Okay, cool. So here's my home page, here's my projects page, and my contacts page. Let's go on my projects page. Okay, cool. I got my first projects, right, and some text around that. And then here's my contact me page. Looks like a contact page, huh? Very, very simple. You should have something like this for your portfolio by now, right? Some kind of contact form, right? And if I click send, does it work? No, because it says I got the required, so it pulls up some basic things that tell me, hey, please enter this field. Please enter it in, right? And some placeholder text. So if I type in there, it replaces the placeholder text with something else. How about a reset button? How do I make a reset button? I want to make a reset so it just resets the form, right? How do I do that? It's going to point back to itself, right?
clear text.
I could do clear text. I could do that, right? But would I do that with my form, or would I do that with some JavaScript? How would you do it? Maybe JavaScript, right? I could also do it other ways. I could just refresh the form. I can make the form point to itself. That's kind of cheesy, right? And it might stop you in some browsers, right? So be careful of that. Okay, so I've got 3 forms, but I got problems. Specifically, I got problems here, not just my problems. Let's take a look at the problems. Look at my contact page. Here's my contact me. And if I right click and I go inspect on my contact form, I've got these issues. It says uncaught type error, cannot set property of text content of no on JavaScript 32. So JavaScript 32 says first paragraph text content is equal to my content. Now, once I have this, right, once I have this first error, it disregards everything else I'm doing down here. Because I have an error, none of the rest of my JavaScript will function. Just putting it out to you, right? How about the other page? Notice how, by the way, my active link is showing, right? So here's my active link. If I click on projects, now that's my active link, right? And notice how in my console, I also have an error. It says, hey, app.js 32. It says the same thing. Text content of null doesn't exist. And then the rest of my JavaScript has been stopped because I have an error. So let's brainstorm a little bit without knowing any JavaScript to do this. How can I hook into the page to know which page itself, the page itself, which page it is? What's a clear way to know what page it is? There's a couple of ways, and there's some easy ways and some ways that are not so reliable. Any have ideas? Anyone have ideas? Anyone did this thing on their own? Anybody? Yes. Or in your body tag, or so that's one way of doing it. So you can put an ID on each of the pages, but that's like you have to connect to the ID, check with the ID. You have to make a kind of a variable, and it's kind of a waste of variable, right? Because all you're doing is checking to see what the page is, right? Anyone else have any other solution? It's not the wrong solution. It's just a solution. Yes.
Try password every document when you're calling the function.
Yeah, but I wouldn't recommend that either. That's okay, but that's not really a great solution.
You could maybe look into a title in the head.
Ah, the title. The title. Title's a good way to do it, but how do I do that? There's different ways. Let's go to my JavaScript file. So my JavaScript file, we're talking about conditional statements anyway today. Let's talk about this. So first of all, before I do any of this stuff, I want to do a test at the top. So here's my app started. As an example. And what I want to do is do something like this. Can I console log? Right, I want to console log my document dot title. Is that possible? Remember, if I can see it, I can test for it. That's the number one thing I can do, right? Document title. And what does this document title point to, by the way? Right? So we got to be very careful what it says. There's other ways to do this, by the way. There are other ways to do this as opposed to document title, and we'll talk about them. One of them we talked about which is putting an ID on your body tag or someplace else on your page. That's one. The other one, try catch. I don't recommend that way because that means you have to put several try catches on your page for each condition, which doesn't make any sense. Lots of code. But this, maybe we can hook into this. Let's see what happens when if I save this, and if I go back to my page. Notice when I save, it reboots my server. I go back to my page, and if I do inspect on this main page, I can see that in the console it says comp lesson 4, comp 1073 lesson 4. Okay, this is lesson 3. Let's go back. First of all, this shouldn't be called lesson 3. It should be called lesson 4. Let me fix that. That's in my index.html page. And instead of lesson 3, let's just say, welcome to my portfolio. And maybe some kind of header or some kind of H2 tag that says for people that love to code or something like that. H2, and then for people that love to code the web. Right? So H2 tag. And then when we go back, if I go back to this, right? It's going to say, welcome to my portfolio for people that love to code the web, right? And it says, the first thing it says, though, is comp 1073 lesson 4. And notice on my title bar, comp 1073 lesson 4 is the name of the page, right? Let's change this. Instead of comp 1073 lesson 4, let's make it easier. If we're going to switch on that, I want to be very clear on what I'm going to make it, right? So instead of this title, I'm going to change the title to home, right? Now, if I go back, home, right? So I'm able to detect the title. Let's check on projects. Let's check on contact me, right? Contact. So I have 3. I have home, projects, and contact. And notice I made them specifically one word each. You can make it as complex as you like, just more difficult to switch, right? If I can read it, I can switch it, right? I can detect it. And what are the ways I can do it? When you think about a way of doing an if statement that says something like this, if my document.title is equal to, home, then do this. If my document.title is worth this, that's one way of doing it. Any other suggestions? Is there another way I can do this? Anyone know another way from a code perspective? First of all, you guys know if statements. How about that? Right? Who does not know if statements? Never did coding before. Anybody? Yay, you all say that you know if statements. That's good, right? So let's try it that way. So one way I could do it is this. So if document.title is double equals to home, right? Then what do I want to do? I want to do this stuff that's inside here. So what I want to do is all this, the stuff that we had done before. Let's get, I'm consoling log this, and I'm going to get rid of some of these other comments, like don't do this and all that kind of stuff. I went on a rant that day. I was really mad because I saw one of my students do it in another course, and I was kind of crazy. So please don't kill this file. So I want to get rid of some of this. First paragraph, all this kind of stuff. These are all things from my first page, right? All this stuff, my click me button. I don't have a click me button in the other pages. And my function.click, this thing here, which we did a little function before, all this stuff can really be put inside. So I'll cut it and I'll put it inside this if statement. Paste. And then I'll select all, right click, and format my document. It's going to indent everything for me. Yay. Fantastic. Right? So if this document.title says home, then it does all this. Okay? Let's just leave it like that first and see what it does to our pages when we save. So I've done this. I've just wrapped it with a if statement, right? And if I go down here to my page, notice that all I have is app started, right? Now, how about if I go to home? I go app started. I got a bunch of this stuff. And if I click onto it, it actually does what it's supposed to do. But if I go to projects, I no longer get the errors that I did before. So effectively, I am using one file to switch between multiple files. Does everyone see that, right? Because I'm using the title. And that's not a bad way of doing it. It's not the best way of doing it. It's not the only way of doing it. There's many different ways of doing this thing. But the app title is pretty safe as long as, and this is for you guys to figure out, your titles are consistent. They're reasonably short, right? And it makes sense with your schema, the way you're doing your website. Sometimes you can't make your titles too short because you have a requirement. So you can't use the title to shift. And then I would use something like my body tag or something else to shift. I can also use my navigation, which I'll talk about later, my URL. What's the actual, there's other things we can tap into. Okay, so this is one. Now, how do I switch it so that if it's projects, it does something else, and if it's contact, it does something else? So contact says contact, project says projects, home says home. So those are the three words we're switching. Again, I could do this. Going back to my code here, I could do, this is like the if statement way up here, and this is the end of the if statement. So this is end if, and if home. I'm putting that in there so I know which one it is, right? You can make a little comment like that. And I want to kind of do the same thing. If it's a home, then it's this, but if it's something else, it's not. And I can do that with else if. So else if, and then I can do something the same if my document title is equal to, and again, it's projects, then do this, and then else if my document title is equal to contact, right? Then do this stuff in here, right? So those are the things I can put. I'm going to do that today. So with projects, do something, contact, do something else, and that's where we're going to put our stuff in here, right? Make sense? This is one way. I could also use a different kind of construct called a switch case, switch statement. You guys have seen that, I'm sure. Thank God. So I could do this. I could say, instead of my if statement, this works, but I could do switch. And instead of document is equal to home, I wouldn't do that. I would just go switching on document, right? And when the case, right, when the case is equal to, case of home, right, then do all this stuff. And when you get to the bottom, this whole switch statement has got the curly braces. So we can get rid of this now. Right? When you get to the bottom, up to here, right, break. Right? And then after that, we can do another case statement. So we can say case, projects, then do some stuff and break. Case contact, right? Do some stuff and break. And break, what it does is it breaks you out of the whole switch statement, switch case. Just to be clear, what you could do, and if you wanted to show this, is a console log at the top that tells me my page title. To show you this is, plus document.title, right? So you could do that, and you could do that every single time. So whenever you kind of come in here, instead of switching it, copy this one, and outside of this, I'll just do right under the app started. Right? I'll put I want to kind of show the document title, right? And we don't have to do a console log. we can go do a console info just to make it a different color. We talked about the different console commands we can do, right? Console info. All right, and then down in here, now that we know that whatever it is, we haven't done anything here, but we can switch for those. Okay, let's check that out and see how it works. Go back here, and if I want to do an inspect, and if I look at the console, page title is home. Notice there's a little I there because I did info, console.info. And if I switch pages to this one, page title is projects, right? And if I do this one, page title is contact. So we're good to go. Are we clear on this stuff? Anyone not clear? Please put up their hand, let me know. So one is we're switching the page, and depending on the title, we're using the document.title property because there's titles in every document. The title tag is what we're searching for, and then we're looking at that property and using it. Okay. I want to redo some of this contact form because the contact form looks nice, but I want to change the button. So instead of it being this default color, it's blue. What do? This is Bootstrap 101. Anyone remember what to do here? I want to change the color from this to blue. No? A what? I can use a class, but what's the class that I use? So if I go to my projects, my contact button, here's my blue button, my regular button. Notice that there is a button and then button defaults. I will go button primary. Button primary makes it blue. And if I go back to my page, it's now blue, right? A little bit more interesting than just the default gray, right? And I told you I want to add another button that kind of does a clear or reset, right? So I want a reset button. Let's do that. So I'm going to kind of put underneath this button, I'm going to copy this one, copy, and then paste. Oops. Copy, and then paste, and change this from submit to reset, right? And then this one would be if I reset, I'll do a warning, which is kind of a yellow color. And I'll change this text to reset. Right? Easy? These are easy coding tricks, like easy things to know how to do, right? So well, does it even work right now? If I go like that, take some information, and then click reset. It resets. I don't have to do any JavaScript. It's built in, right? One thing I'm missing, I've got an email address, but a lot of times what I want is a telephone number, right? Because I want to do that, and I want to make it different. I want to make a valid email address and a valid telephone number. So it's password, contact number, email address, and your message. That's what I probably want, right? So let's go and do that. So back to my form, and now I'm figuring out I need something else. I'm going to copy this, and I'm going to paste it inside here. Instead of an email address, I'm going to say phone number here, contact number, and inside 4, it'll be contact number or contact number. I like to make long variable names. There we go. And the type. What's the type? Who knows what the type is? Well, if you look through here, email, hidden, number, password, there's a bunch. And the one I want is this one. Tell. And why am I choosing this? Because on a mobile device, HTML5 will pull up a different keyboard, right, from my mobile device for telephone numbers as opposed to the other ones. These are the forms for HTML5 include these different options, right? I definitely want it required. If you're going to send me, enter your contact number. If you're going to contact me, I want you to make sure I know how to contact you. So now more than an email address and a contact number. Okay. I go back, I see that I have my contact number, my email address, and my message, but they're all the same. And I want to be able to do some input validation. We're going to handle that next week. Like I said, we can't handle it this week. It's too much because it takes a little bit of work, right? Especially on the JavaScript side. But now I have a complete contact me page, and it should be responsive. So I should be able to do one of these, and it should fit to my page more or less, right? Means it should fit on mobile devices. Projects-wise, how about this one? We have a picture that's here, but it's not quite responsive. And I want to make it so that when it's small, I want the picture to get smaller. We'll talk about how to do that. But this is one of my projects, and when we have more than one project in here, notice that my fixed footer, it kind of hides my my project details, but at least my first project is here, and I can put as many projects as I want. Let's turn this off now. Questions so far? All right, so we've kind of gone for about an hour. Let's take a short break, and when we come back, we'll do more of this lovely stuff.